Anyone remembers what we discussed in the previous class? We are discussing the 14th chapter of which book? Bhagavad Gita as it is by Srila Prabhupada. Yeah. So how many verses did we discuss in the last class?
16.
Verses 1 to
16.
15 or 16? I think 15.
15.
Verses 1 to 15 we discussed. So anyone remembers what was the main points? दो हफ्ता हो गया भरत बंद हो गया
वैक्यूम क्लीनर
वैक्यूम क्लीनर इतना okay
And the first was probably
you are not there
And I have not even heard online yet.
okay
I will do it this week.
huh
I will do it this week.
you are busy with going through it's understandable even I will.
the first was probably Bhagavad Gita for the first time I read that the Prabhupada says that's speculative, but that speculation doesn't mean that just speculation. Basically, what he says that you listen to the acharyas and then use your own intelligence.
Okay, good point. What else? Okay, we'll have to do a quick recap. तो सब लोग विराह ताप में हो गए look like the gopis of Vrindavan. सब लोग विराह ताप में mood of separation. Even I am going through it. What to do? But our duty is there. Okay. So we discussed the three modes. Anyone knows what are the three modes of material nature? Mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. Sattva gun, raja gun and tama gun. So in Sattva gun, what is the basic problem? One becomes too attached to what in Sattva gun? Rajkumar Prabhu. One in mode of goodness becomes attached to what? Two things. Sukh and Jnana. Happiness and knowledge. We are recapping from last section. And in mode of passion, what is the characteristic of mode of passion? Attachment and pride. Right? This is what we saw no? In the last class. Attachment breeds pride. We saw that. And in the mode of passion, everything is colored by unlimited desire. Trishna Sangha. We saw that, no? Trishna Sangha. Thirst or hankering for boundless material attachment. Because of Trishna Sangha, then we are getting associated with Karma Sangha, which means what? Working very hard to fulfill our material desires. And we also saw that the mode of passion gradually leads us to degrade into the mode of ignorance. So in mode of goodness we can work purely. We are recapping last class. In the mode of passion, we at least produce some fruits that can be offered to Krishna. But in the mode of ignorance produces nothing. Right? Mode of ignorance only produces deeper ignorance. Please wake up.
सो क्या
फ्रेश हो गया मैं अभी तक नहीं हुआ अभी 24 घंटा हुआ Yesterday was a very bad day. Sattva gun, we also saw, creates inactivity, but that inactivity is based on knowledge, whereas Tamagun creates inactivity which is based on ignorance, and ignorance opposes the other two modes. Pramada means what? Madness. We saw that in the last class. Pramada opposes goodness, and alasya means what? Alshimanu, indolence, opposes the mode of passion, and Nidra opposes both goodness as well as passion. So people in the mode of goodness, we also saw last time, they are too self-satisfied to follow the diktats of the super soul. People who are in the mode of passion, they desire to speak too loudly. We saw that. Therefore, they are too busy speaking to be able to hear the voice of the super soul. And people who are in the mode of ignorance are asleep. So where is the question of hearing the super soul? They are too inert or ignorant or mad to hear the voice of the super soul. So we saw these three modes of material nature. And after describing the effects of this mode, Lord Krishna was telling Arjuna how these three modes are not constant in their influence upon the living entity. Then we saw how the three modes of material nature lead to different destinations. Right? Everyone is silent. Anyone remembers where the soul goes to after death? Pitraloka, where judgment is given. If one is in the mode of goodness, one has done a lot of good activities, then where does one go? Heavenly planets. Up or down? How many say up? Raise hands. How many say down? Raise hands. And how many say depends? Raise hands. Depends. Very good. It depends on what?
Belief in God or no belief in God?
Huh?
Belief in God.
Correct. Depending on piety or impiety. Correct? So, people who are pious, who believe in God, who are theistic, who follow religion, who believe in religious principles, who believe in some supreme personality, they go to the Divya Swarga. The others go to the Veera Swarga. We saw that. And then, people who are in mode of passion, what happens?
Stay here.
Stay in earth. Because to continue karma, because they are too busy, they are already attached to activities. Working hard day and night to afford more and more things. 1 house, 2 house, 3 house, 4 house, 5 house, 1 car, 2 car, like that. Okay? 3 cars, like that. So that what happens? If we leave our body in that consciousness, thinking how we will save the next taxation year, what will happen? We have to come back to the material world. And people who are in mode of ignorance, what happens? Who sleep in the Bhagavad Gita class, what happens to them? Nothing happens to them. Okay. Mode of ignorance, if you leave your body in mode of ignorance, then one loses the human form. But what happens before that? Huh? Correct. One has to go and go to the hellish planets and suffer, for which a body is provided. And after all that suffering, then one has to go and take a animal body. What is the logic of this? Because punishment in the hellish planets is for your activities. And animal body is based on your desires. Correct. So that is how it goes. Is it clear now? The whole cycle, this is what we discussed in the previous class. Next time I will not sum up, all of you have to sum up. Everyone is silent when I ask to sum up. Okay, so today we'll finish the chapter. We'll go from verse 16 to... So there is a lot to be covered, lot of very interesting philosophical points today. So we need high attention span. Lot of points are there for today's class. Because it's a very important section. Verse number 16. The result of pious action is pure and is said to be in the mode of goodness. But action done in the mode of passion results in misery. And action performed in the mode of ignorance results in foolishness. Arvind Prabhu, you want to read? Fast reading, huh? Super fast reading.
Verse number?
Very good. The book is called Bhagavad Gita. Chapter is 14. Verse is 16.
The result of pious activities in the mode of goodness is pure. Therefore, the sages who are free from all illusion are situated in happiness. But activities in the mode of passion are simply miserable. Any activity for material happiness is bound to be defeated. If, for example, one wants to have a skyscraper, so much human misery has to be undergone before a skyscraper can be built. The financier has to take much trouble to earn a mass of wealth, and those who are slaving to construct the building have to render physical toil. The miseries are there. Thus, Bhagavad Gita says that in any activity performed under the spell of the mode of passion, there is definitely great misery. There may be little so-called mental happiness. I have this house or this money, but this is not actual happiness. As far as the mode of ignorance is concerned, the performer is without knowledge, and therefore all his activities result in present misery, and afterwards he will go on towards animal life. Animal life is always miserable, although under the spell of the illusory energy Maya, the animals do not understand this. Slaughtering poor animals is also due to the mode of ignorance. The animal killers do not know that in the future the animal will have a body suitable to kill them. This is the law of nature. In human society, if one kills a man, he has to be hanged. That is the law of the state. Because of ignorance, people do not perceive that there is a complete state controlled by the Supreme Lord. Every living creature is a son of the Supreme Lord, and he does not tolerate even an ant being killed. One has to pay for it. So indulgence in animal killing for the taste of the tongue is the grossest kind of ignorance. A human being has no need to kill animals because God has supplied so many nice things. If one indulges in meat eating anyway, it is to be understood that he is acting in ignorance and is making his future very dark. Of all kinds of animal killing, the killing of cow is most vicious because the cow gives us all kinds of pleasure by supplying milk. Cow slaughter is an act of grossest type of ignorance. In the Vedic literature, the word gopi, anita, matsaram indicates that one who, being fully satisfied by milk, is desirous of killing the cow, is in the grossest ignorance. There is also prayer in the Vedic literature as states, Namo Brahmanya Devaya, Go Brahmanya Hitaya, Jagaditaya Krishnaya, Govindaya, Namo Namaha. My Lord, you are the well-wisher of the cows and the brahmanas, and you are the well-wisher of the entire human society and world. Vishnu Purana. The purport in this special mention is given in that prayer for the protection of the cows and the brahmanas. Brahmanas are the symbol of spiritual education, and cows are the symbol of the most valuable food. These two living creatures, the brahmanas and the cows, must be given all protection, that is, real advancement of civilization. In modern human society, spiritual knowledge is neglected and cow killing is encouraged. It is to be understood that the human society is advancing in the wrong direction and is clearing the path to its own condemnation. The civilization which guides the citizens to become animals in their next life is certainly not a human civilization. The present human civilization is of course grossly misled by the mode of passion and ignorance. It is very dangerous age, and all nations should take care to provide the easiest process, Krishna consciousness, to save humanity from the greatest danger.
What are the points?
Cows and
Good to
Brahmanas.
be vegetarian.
It's good to be vegetarian, but it is not enough to be vegetarian. Someone said something.
Cows and Brahmanas should be protected.
Cows and brahmanas should be protected. Okay.
The current civilization is not actually human civilization. Meaning it is not leading to the actual path, rather it is misleading to the animalistic path.
Today, I think in the morning Bhagavatam class in Bhakta Prabhu, there was a discussion. So it's a matter we were having about whether devotees should be vegans or whether devotees should drink milk from the cows here.
So what is the conclusion?
I think Bhakta Prabhu was saying that Prabhupada knew, like when the devotees were buying milk for Prabhupada, they told Prabhupada that sometimes fish oil is added in the milk to increase the vitamin D content. And Prabhupada said, yeah, what to do? But once we have paid money, then I think he mentioned something like that we don't get the karma, and the cow is anyway getting benefited. Because that milk is, the devotee will offer that milk to Krishna and then drink, so the cow is at least getting some money. I think that's what Bhakta Prabhu mentioned.
Instead of organic milk.
He mentioned about organic milk.
That's in the United States where they add vitamin D, but in Australia they don't do that.
Milk is not called as vitamin D.
No, not in Australia. That's only in the United States.
But I think they were also talking more about the treatment the cows get.
Okay, that's of
Extraction
course.
of milk. And what happens to the cows after the milking period is over.
Yes.
Collaboratively, we made them more ignorance. The fact that the whole world is leading to devastation. So the whole world, the civilization is almost acting foolish. So as it's written in the translation of the purport, Prabhupada explains how grossly people are engaged in the foolish activity, the mode of ignorance. So he concludes with writing that one has to come to Krishna consciousness to save humanity, and that's the only solution.
Okay. So in verse number 16, the Lord is explaining the results of action in each of the three modes of material nature. What happens if you act in this mode? What happens if you act in that mode? Now, the interesting point here is that even the Srimad Bhagavatam says this, that while developing our Krishna consciousness, then we have to attempt to perform our services in the mode of goodness. It is said that the mode of goodness is the springboard to the mode of pure goodness, to the mode of Shuddha Sattva. Because services which are otherwise tinged by the mode of passion as well as by the mode of ignorance, they adversely affect our consciousness. Even devotional service performed under these modes adversely affect our consciousness. What are the examples of service in the mode of devotional service in the mode of passion? We know examples of mode of passion anyway.
Cooking,
Right.
Kirtan.
But devotional service in the mode of passion.
Kirtan. Kirtan.
Kirtan, yes. Kirtan means what? There is a Shayanarti 9 o'clock going on, and then dhamak, dhamak, dhum, it's going on like that. Like that. With no, the whole idea is for the Lord to sleep. But then we are singing for our own pleasure, very passionately. That's one example. But there is a specific quality which is attached to devotional life in the mode of passion.
cooking,
I am the doer.
You know?
cooking.
Service done for recognition.
Correct. Service done for recognition. So that is the symptom of devotional service in the mode of passion. Service which is done for recognition. Okay. Serving the spiritual master to get recognized as the main man, as the go-to man. Isko through jana unta hai. Like that. So when we do devotional service like that, then our devotional service becomes in the mode of passion. And such devotional service begets lot of conflicts. Because the desire here is not to please the Lord. We'll talk more about it in the next verse. An example of mode of ignorance is what? What is the quality of someone who is in the mode of ignorance doing devotional service?
Anger.
Anger. All these points are coming from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3. Explanation of Lord Kapila to Devahuti. He starts explaining with this only. Kapila Muni's rendition of Sankhya Yoga starts with this. He's congratulating his mother on the questions, and then he's saying there are three types of devotional service you can do. Devotional service in the mode of goodness, passion and ignorance. So mode of passion, devotional service in the mode of passion means what? Desire for recognition through devotional service. Like Prabhu was pointing out, doing a fantastic kirtan to be known as a good kirtaniya and to get a prime slot, 9 o'clock slot on Janmashtami. So that is called as devotional. Still you are singing Hare Krishna only. You are not singing Dhoom Machade Dhoom. Okay. But still your devotional life is mode of passion because you are singing, but there is a desire somewhere that I should be recognized, as a great singer, like that. Then you come with a shawl like this. Shastri ji aaye, kya bhaya idhar? All those things. So when we do all those things which are not required, but required for singing purely for the Lord, of course devotional life is not external. You may have so many things, but if you are detached, that's a different question. But when you do so many things to just attract attention towards us rather than to Krishna, then that immediately becomes devotional service in the mode of passion because we want something out of it other than Krishna's pleasure. Anya Abhilasha is there. So that Krishna is very quick to spot that. Okay. And devotional service in the mode of ignorance is characterized by anger. So if you are throwing your weight around everyone, Mataji, what kind of garlands are you making? Blah, 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 you know, like that. Okay, go there and get that, go there and get that. I remember one devotee here, few years back, his person is not in Melbourne anymore, but always angry, like that. Very knowledgeable, very knowledgeable. Nobody can explain philosophy like he does. He's not in Melbourne anymore, but this person used to get very, very angry at me. Suddenly something happened in his life because of which it happened, but always very, very angry. So that is not acceptable. That kind of devotional service is called as devotional service in the mode of ignorance. It adversely affects our consciousness because we end up doing Vaishnava aparadha and therefore it affects our consciousness.
So what happens when, especially when there are festivals and all that, when devotees they actually looking after the queue, sometimes they do have to get passionate or angry as well, and they might end up offending other devotees.
Again I said, if the center of your anger is service to the Lord, Bhagavad Kurukshetra was all about angry. There was no doves were not released in Kurukshetra. Okay? It was all about anger only. And who was invoking the anger? Krishna only was invoking the anger. So anger in itself is not a problem. But anger which is dovetailed in the service of Krishna, that is not in the modes of material nature. So if somebody is jumping the queue and you are telling that, obviously you have to tell, immediately you will not shout, but you have to tell nicely. Already Prabhuji, please come in the queue. If he is not listening, then you have to. And Govind Prabhu was also telling us like that. Sometimes you have to tell people, if you have to establish an order somewhere and things are going haywire, then you can't just be very goody-goody. Then you have to tell. Okay. But what happens many times is devotees get angry by virtue of their seniority. They know that if I yell at this fellow, this person cannot do anything because he is a junior devotee. Does it make sense? It has got nothing to do with the service of Krishna. We try to dominate over others and we try to push others like that. Then that obviously is a different kind. Where you are angry with someone just because he or she is relatively inexperienced in Krishna consciousness or junior to us. Like that. That has got nothing to do with devotional service. That's our own false ego.
But in doing service to Krishna as well, that devotee was offended. So what can you do about that?
Doing service if the devotee is offended, then we have to fall at the feet of the devotee and beg forgiveness. There is no other way. There is no other way. There is no other way.
Keshav Prabhu says you can be angry, but you don't stay continue being angry. You come back to the mode of goodness.
Correct. So this is a good example, and I was actually one devotee in Chowpatty. He's like that. Gaurang Prabhu. He's like that. When it comes to service, he's very pakka. And Govind Prabhu was also telling me during this visit that when it comes to management, they are very pakka. It has to be, if it has to happen at this time, it has to happen at this time. And it has to be like that. Otherwise, everything will go, Prabhu, if possible, can you please, blow the conch shell at 4:30 in the morning? But try your best. Will conch shell ever blow at 4:30 in the morning if you give such instruction? Then there has to be a tight instruction. If you are not getting up in time and blowing the conch shell at 4:30 in the morning, then you don't come to the altar. Simply de-roster that person. So when it comes to that, then you cannot say, Prabhu, what is this Vaishnava aparadha? Because we are doing Seva aparadha by not going at 4:30. So then we should not say that, okay, you are doing Vaishnava aparadha by correcting me. But when we take a condescending approach unnecessarily, when it is not required, always trying to dominate the other devotee because of our seniority, trying to exploit them, correct? Or just trying to satisfy our own false ego by dominating over others constantly and trying to manage their lives or manipulate their lives, then that is where there is a chance of Vaishnava, because that's got nothing to do with bhakti. So, if you see, for example, Kripa Siddha Prabhu is a devotee of a very high caliber in our congregation, right? But Kripa Siddha Prabhu does the thankless job of leading the Janmashtami, what is that? Security, right? So if Kripa Siddha Prabhu is tough, then obviously we understand that. Otherwise this person is not like that. So you know that he is being tough because the service is given to him. He has to attain an outcome. You have to be tough. For example, as a teacher, if you have to be tough, the assignments have to be submitted on time. Otherwise marks cut. Then it has to be tough. Then you cannot say, Prabhu, Vaishnava aparadha. Not like that. Vaishnava aparadha means not studying Prabhupada's books, not taking exams on time. Correct, no? Because that is Prabhupada's order. If we don't do that, then Prabhupada is offended, isn't it? These are various examples.
devotees can be merciful, not coinciding
Yeah.
with same June 30th.
Yes, Prabhu.
Devotees don't have to match with June.
Verse exam and all is to
Any other points?
Example, so example one.
The example like that. You go further. More easier examples. User friendly examples. Okay. So, devotional service in the mode of passion, ignorance we saw. So Prabhupada, so it is mentioned that they adversely affect our consciousness. So how can we aspiring devotees become purified enough to serve in the mode of goodness? How can we increase our probability to be always serving in the mode of goodness? What should we do? Any ideas?
Increase the knowledge and insight.
How? Therefore, solution is given here. Prabhupada writes in his purport, it happens by hearing, Shravana. Therefore, constant hearing is required. By Shravana only, we can remain in the mode of goodness. Otherwise, we will fall down from the mode of goodness. You will see in your life many times when we are hearing, Mataji, give her a chair. You will hear many times, you will experience yourself on many occasions that when you have heard a lecture right in the morning, then you go into work or go into any other activity, usually what is your mood? You are generally in the mode of goodness, especially if you hear some Krishna's pastimes or some value-based stories, and then you go, or you read Srimad Bhagavatam. I can remember when we study Srimad Bhagavatam for our exams, we have a study group. We come together before the exams and we intensely study the Srimad Bhagavatam. How is the mood after that? For the next, at least for the next 3 or 4 days, generally you are in the mode of goodness. You don't feel the impact of mode of passion and ignorance as much as you feel otherwise when you are not in that, when you are not intensely involved in reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Similarly, lectures also. A lecture a day keeps Maya away, right? So a lecture a day will keep us relatively high chance that we will be in the mode of goodness. Ideally, one in the morning and one in the evening, or hearing in the morning and reading in the evening. So if we sandwich that way, then generally we will find that we are in the mode of goodness. So Prabhupada is emphasizing hearing. It is also mentioned, Srimad Bhagavatam 2nd chapter of 1st canto also mentions the same thing. Tada rajas tamo bhava kama loba dayasche cheta etar anaviddam sthitam sattve prasiddhati. So by devotional service, one will transcend the mode of rajas and tamas and be irrevocably fixed. In fact, I think this verse comes after that nashta prayashva abhadreshu. Right? It comes after that, if I remember correctly. So, hearing and reading. Now, hearing and reading what? Prabhupada explains that we must hear and read from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. These are our 2 main scriptures. Of course, then we graduate to Chaitanya Charitamrita. His Grace Govind Prabhu was here last week. He was also mentioning the same thing. He said that many great kings and queens like Shivaji Maharaj, Jhansi Ki Rani, they were all exemplary rulers. Right? So, always these great personalities, they used to hear 3 scriptures. Which are the 3 scriptures they used to hear? Ramayana, Mahabharata and Srimad Bhagavatam. He mentioned 3 scriptures. Ramayana, Mahabharata and... Because why? Ramayana develops character. Mahabharata gives life strategy. And Srimad Bhagavatam gives love of God. So these 3 books. These 3 things are important for any person who is in a position of leadership. Character is very important. But simply having character but not being able to strategize is no good for a leader. Right? And being able to do everything and not getting into bhakti is what? Shrama eva hi kevalam. Therefore, love of God ultimately, that has to be there. Right? So these 3 things are there. Okay.
Your points are very good. Prabhupada doesn't write about hearing in 16.
Pardon?
Prabhupada doesn't write about hearing in verse 16.
It's coming in the future.
Oh, so you figure out.
Sometimes I take a summary and take the mood of the section. What's the message that is there? Prabhupada writes about here. So, so these are the 3 books. However, as much as we say these 3 books, Gauri Mataji was mentioning Bhagavad Gita, right? It's important to, you are mentioning Bhagavad Gita. No, not mistake. It's actually correct what you said. It is important to read Bhagavad Gita also. Okay. I was talking to, again, because Govind Prabhu is here, I'll give more examples now. It's fresh in my mind. I was talking to Govind Prabhu about one of the devotees in the congregation who is having some challenges in life. Okay. But a very nice person, always reading Srimad Bhagavatam, but finding difficulty in how to handle life situations. But he's a very pakka reader of Srimad Bhagavatam. So I was telling that Prabhuji, this devotee, so much struggle, so much Srimad Bhagavatam he is reading, still so much struggle in terms of how to deal with situations. He said, that's because he is not reading Bhagavad Gita. Then immediately he told me. And suddenly it gave me a nice perspective about Bhagavad Gita. Yes, Srimad Bhagavatam one must read, no doubt, because it's Amala Puranam. Right? It will put us in the mode of transcendental goodness. No doubt about that. But still Bhagavad Gita has to be read, because in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is directly giving solutions to problems. Through the past tense, we are trying to understand the solutions. But simply the past tense is not enough. One needs the core instructions of Krishna also. So he said that devotee must read the Bhagavad Gita also. Only reading Srimad Bhagavatam is not enough. So both are important.
So can you say Bhagavad Gita is part of Mahabharata or is it a separate thing?
Bhagavad Gita is part of Mahabharata. Definitely it was spoken in Mahabharata, but Bhagavad Gita was not spoken at the time of Mahabharata for the first time. That is why it is part of Mahabharata, but Bhagavad Gita was spoken many years back. We saw in the earlier chapters. It was spoken by Lord to the Sun God, Devaswan and all that came through discipleship. Bhagavad Gita was again spoken in the battle of Kurukshetra. Therefore, in that sense, it forms a part of it. Okay, so more the hearing, more the purification, and less the mind is disturbed. So hearing is what will take us above the mode of passion and ignorance. One lecture a day. Govindra was also telling me during this trip that hearing is more important than physical proximity. Jyoti Mataji also sent an SMS, correct? Your WhatsApp message also reiterated that point. So it was very instructive again, because yesterday all of us were in Virahata, the feeling of separation. All of us are feeling very down because he left. But then we have to now remember that when the person is now not here, but what is always there with us? The instructions. So we have to take shelter of instructions. So even for this, if there is so much of misery, then imagine, how when Srila Prabhupada left, how his disciples would have felt. We can't even imagine that day. Correct? To some extent, Bhakti Charu Swami mentioned to us in the Yatra last year how those moments were. It was very painful. What they underwent, Srila Prabhupada's disciples on that day, I don't think we will be able to understand that. But then, what did they do? Yes, they did not say, oh, Prabhupada has gone, now what to do. The movement has to go on. So then more important than the personal association is the instructions. So the show must go on. We must get back quickly into our duties, regular duties, like that. And that is the instruction which they gave us also. So Govindra was mentioning that hearing is more important than physical proximity. In fact, this personality it's very difficult to get hold of him in Bombay, because he is always surrounded by devotees and he is always very busy. So sometimes it was unbelievable. We have to pinch ourselves, saying that, oh, is he in my house right now? So close to me, like that. But towards the final day before he left, I had a conversation with him where I was soliciting some feedback from him. And I told him that my greatest fear is that I have become over familiar with you. I told him that. And he was smiling. He said, no, nothing like that, because he is a very gentle person. But my greatest fear was I will become over familiar with him and start joking with him, or too much over familiarity, such that I am really not able to absorb. I am not able to extract from him his wisdom and act on that. Rather just going around, moving around, being with him. Like Prabhupada said, even a fly is there next to me, but it is sucking my blood. So we don't want to deal with serious devotees like that, being too over familiar with them. So I was just thinking that this is the greatest danger. And I was also praying to the Lord that please let me not become over familiar, to the point that I don't give enough, I don't have enough reverence for his lectures. I know him, he is lecturing. That should not happen. That can easily come because the mind is very tricky. And then I was remembering at the same time, and I was thinking how great Srila Prabhupada's personal servants were and how challenging it must have been being in that physical proximity of Srila Prabhupada, serving as his personal assistant and still remaining humble at the same time. It's a very, very, very difficult. If you are very close to spiritual master or if you are close to a great personality and you are with them all the time, then it's very difficult to become proud in that situation and start throwing your weight on everyone. So therefore, we have to pray that we don't fall victim to that. Even Lord Brahma prayed like that to who? To Lord Narayan. When Lord came and shook hands with him. Can you imagine Lord shaking hands? So hearing is more important than physical proximity because physical proximity carries a lot of risk. Hearing carries no risk. But hearing means hearing and following instruction. Otherwise it will become only like that. So therefore, the two principles which we discussed earlier of restricted relationships and daily confidential hearing are important. I don't know how many of you are doing that. Daily confidential hearing means choose one devotee who inspires you more than anyone else and keep hearing his lectures every day, even for 15 minutes. But that devotee's lecture you must hear every day. By doing that, then you will imbibe the mood of that devotee. Does it make sense? This was the instruction which I got 2 years back from Premnidhi Prabhu. Daily confidential hearing. He said, you choose. Nobody can tell you whose lecture you should hear. But you choose. You may hear different lectures. For example, I may hear 5 different speakers' lectures. Okay? But this speaker's lecture you must hear every day, even for 15 minutes. That's called daily confidential hearing. And you must choose who the devotee is. And if you do that, then your thinking, your behavior, your speech, everything, you will find slowly aligning with that particular devotee. Okay. Any questions? So, because when we hear, then we will also get solutions to our problems. Govind Prabhu was addressing the Milpak Bhakti Vriksha program the other day, and I was mentioning to him actually, Prabhu, the program is already 2.5 years old. In the car when I was driving, I was mentioning, it's already 2.5 years old. So you feel free to speak on more advanced topics like that. I just gave suggestion to him. Then he looked at me, no, I will speak on Bhagavad Gita 1.1. And then of course I said, okay Prabhu, whatever, like that. But I can tell you, 1.1, whatever he spoke, I never heard Bhagavad Gita 1.1, anything of that sort. It was mind-blowing. So much of depth 1.1 has got, I never realized, even till today. Of course, I felt, that how can I sit and be a Bhakti Shastri teacher? It's my service, so I am doing this. But I realized the gap between how 1.1 should be spoken and how we are speaking 1.1, at least how I am speaking 1.1. He gave an excellent rendition of 1.1. The basic core point that he touched upon was that Dhritarashtra needed sympathy and not solution. And I thought that was a very good extraction of 1.1. The whole problem of Kurukshetra war was because of that. Dhritarashtra only needed sympathy, he didn't need solution. And many of us have that consciousness. We only need people to sympathize with us. Prabhu, ye chal raha hai, takleef hai life mein, and we just want someone, in Gujarati they say, wali wali karne ka. थोड़ा ऐसे सब प्रेम से चल ठीक है सब ठीक हो जाएगा. Not like that. That's called as blowing on the boil, he said. That is not going to solve the problem. So there has to be surgery performed. Okay. Not goody, you are right, I am right, everyone okay, peaceful. That is all mode of goodness. Mode of pure goodness, there is a surgery that is required. Cut wherever things are going wrong. Be heavy, like that. So Dhritarashtra was not willing to accept that. So he was only seeking sympathy. Now these are the points that come when you hear from realized souls. Then you get perspectives in life. Then we also know. After that, I realize whenever I go to someone senior, then I should not go just for crying on their shoulder. I should go genuinely to seek a solution. Obviously, then I should also implement whatever they are advising. That's the power of hearing. It can then immediately put us above our lamentation from Tada Rajas Tamo Bhava Kama Lobha Dayascha. It can put us directly into Sthitham Sattve Prasiddhati. It can put us into Sattva Guru and make us sthit, fixed in that. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 5, Text 13 gives a very nice verse. It's one of my favorite verses. Tat Shabdadhana Vivardhamana Viraktyam Anyatra Karoti Pumsam Hare Pada Anusmriti Nirvritasya, something like that. Samasta Dukha Apyayam Asudante. I think it is like that. Arvind Prabhu, can you check? 3.5.13. Anyone who has got 3.5.13 Srimad Bhagavatam. But essentially, okay, don't worry about the Sanskrit. I may be off here and there a little bit, but I think it is like that. For one who is anxious to engage constantly, please hear attentively. For one who is anxious to engage constantly in hearing such topics. Hearing such topics? When? Constantly. And for one who is very anxious to hear these topics constantly, then in that mood, Krishna Katha gradually increases his indifference to other things. Our problem is that we don't have indifference. We are very, very sensitive. थोड़ा कुछ हुआ तो रूठ जाते हैं, मुंह फुला लेते हैं हम लोग. Correct ना? बुरा लगा, बैठ जाते हैं. कुछ भी, if anything slightest is not to our expectation, we don't care if somebody is senior to us or whatever, we immediately show our face and pass judgments. Correct, no? So this is the problem. This is because we are in the mode of passion. We expect something always, all the time. So Bura Lag Gaya syndrome. So for one who is anxious to engage constantly, Krishna Katha gradually reduces the indifference. So we are more tolerant of things around us, even if they don't fulfill our desires, we become indifferent. Whether within devotional service as well as outside devotional service. Outside devotional service, yes, we all know that it will reduce our indifference, because we all have realized that after we became devotees, then our material attachments have gone down. There is no doubt about that, right? But within devotional service, we are not able to develop detachment. Or even within our family life, we are not able to develop a healthy detachment with our wife or with our children or with our parents. We are not able to develop a healthy detachment. I am not talking about affection. Affection with detachment. Does it make sense? Because attachment is the root cause of misery. Blind attachment. Me, my husband, my wife, my house, my family. Correct? Like that. So, such constant remembrance, when we hear Krishna Katha like that, such constant remembrance of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna by a devotee who has achieved transcendental bliss vanquishes all miseries without delay. एकदम फट से चला जाता है. All miseries will go away without delay. That is the power of being very anxious to hear and constantly hearing Krishna Katha. Being only very anxious to hear and not hearing is different. प्रभु मन तो बहुत है, प्रभु की इच्छा होगी तो सब सुनेंगे. Not like that. MP3 player लाया है अभी, but till the time that thing goes into the ears, and then you press the button and you hear, till that time everything is only intention. Then we are only bol bachan, that's all. Right? We are not doing anything, correct? So it has to go into the ears, and then we have to hear, and hear attentively. Not that, baj raha hai and then person is asleep. Acha aa gaya kya scene kilda? Punch karke bahar aao. Not like that. Hear attentively, and then meditate on that, and then see what is the personal application, and then always, personally it benefits me, always say it, whatever you heard, say it. When you say it, you remember it. You can say it in your house.
Discuss with your friends.
Discuss with your wife at home when you come, because the wife is the best friend, no? At home. Correct? Friend sunega nahi sunega, biwi to sunegi kam se kam. Correct? At least this one she will listen. Correct? Correct, no? If Krishna Chandra Prabhu comes home and tells, look, I heard something nice from Indradumna Maharaj, will you not listen? Correct, no? If he tells something else, let us discuss about, some household problems in Hyderabad, then you will say, abhi nahi, baad mein. Correct, no? So similarly, this is a topic which devotees are by default eager to hear all the time. So when the husband comes home, then, and the wife has the wife, meeting the wife, very good conversation to start is that, "Arey, I heard this. Arey, aaj ye lecture mein ye suna maine. I heard this." And then she says, "Yes, yes, even when I was doing, istri, I was hearing this lecture and this is what he told." And how nice the relationship then becomes. Correct, no? Otherwise, then you get into, all the kind of tangles. Or if that is not there, then we will discuss politics. क्या हुआ आज मंदिर में? कौन क्या बोला? इसका लाइफ में क्या चल रहा है? Like that. These are two conversations. One is Gramya Katha and one is Krishna Katha. So one should be very anxious. So come home and immediately start sharing what you heard from your lectures. Then she will share, you will share. Then there is a good atmosphere, like that. Why this is so? Because on the absolute plane, Krishna Katha and Krishna are one and the same. Abhinnatvam nama naminam. All miseries arise out of attachment. Prabhupada writes, all miseries arise out of attachment. So gradually, this hearing Krishna Katha develops viraktim. Viraktim anyatra karoti pumsam. Correct, no? That verse is same?
Yes, yes.
Tat chajadana vibhardhamana. And third line is Hare Padanuspriti, no? Nirvitasya samasta dukkha apyaya masudate. Correct? So, 3 point?
3.5.
अच्छा गलत बोला हाँ 13 3.5. Also at different stages of life we need to hear different things. There also किसी को शादी का प्रॉब्लम, किसी को शादी हो गया इसके लिए प्रॉब्लम, करेक्ट? इसको बच्चा नहीं है, नो चाइल्ड प्रॉब्लम, किसी को बच्चा है तो प्रॉब्लम, करेक्ट? At different stages of life we have different problems. So some people want to hear about ashram change, some people want to hear about homeschooling, some people want to hear about parenting, right? Some people want to hear about retirement, right? So all these solutions come when we start hearing from saintly personalities, because they can give answers to all these questions. Jnaninas tattvadarshina. So that is the way of transcending the modes of material nature. That is a key message in this section. Hearing. And this is a key message of many other sections also that we have seen. From the mode of goodness, real knowledge develops. From the mode of passion, greed develops. And from the mode of ignorance, develop foolishness, madness and illusion. So we will not read the purport because you all have already read it. It will be unnecessary repetition. Rajkumar Prabhu is laughing. I don't know what to mean, what to understand. Prabhu, you have read and come. You can talk offline. So this verse describes the causes of the results that were described in the earlier verse. So action in mode of goodness results in what? Knowledge. In mode of passion results in misery caused by greed and endless desires. These are the characteristics of mode of passion. And mode of ignorance causes one to act foolishly. So in 3.29.8, and I suggest all of you read this section. 3.29, 3.30, sorry, 3.29.8, 9, 10, those verses. If you see, Kapila Muni is talking to Devahuti. So where it is mentioned that devotional service which is executed by a person who is in the mode of passion and mode of ignorance. Devotional service executed in the mode of passion and ignorance. What is the principal characteristic of that such devotional service? It is characterized by a separatist mentality. This is a very oft quoted point in ISKCON. Kesha Prabhu was also mentioning this, you remember? In Srimad Bhagavata Bhakti Vedanta Gadya. That devotional service, when it is done in the mode of passion and mode of ignorance, means what? Separatist mentality. You remember this, Mataji? You studied in 3rd canto. You didn't attend 3rd canto. No problem. Okay, it is separatist mentality. What is separatist mentality? Separatist mentality is also called as Prithak Bhav or Bhinna Drik. Why do you call it a separatist mentality? What is a separatist? There is Renuka Mataji is not here. Sachin is also not here.
I'm here.
Okay, I'm sorry. What is separatist mentality? I told in Mill Park class today.
Yes, separatist is aside from the mainstream. Having your own.
Correct. Separatist mentality means anya abhilasha. Anything that is hatke from the goal of the Lord. That is called separatist mentality. So, the person's interests are separate from the mode of the Lord. So, devotional service which is executed by a person who is envious, right? Or who is proud, who is violent, and one who is angry. What are the things we said? Envy, pride, violent, and angry. If such a person does devotional service, or devotional service is done in this mood, let us put it that way, then that kind of devotional service is considered to be devotional service in the mode of darkness or ignorance. Okay? This is what Kapila Muni tells. It is characterized by a vengeful mentality. Vengeful mentality in devotional service. Today you drove Maharaj, tomorrow I will ensure that I drive Maharaj. Okay? Now, can you imagine that? आज आपने ड्राइव किया महाराज को, कल को मैं देख लूँगा, मैं ही ड्राइव करूँगा महाराज को, कुछ भी करके I will ensure that महाराज मेरे गाड़ी में बैठे. This is called as what? Service in a vengeful mentality. Service ही है, okay, very nice thought. महाराज को मैं ड्राइव करूँगा, but it is characterized by a vengeful mentality, getting equal, like that. So that is called as devotional. And because of that, relationships will also go for a toss. Correct? So that is devotional life in the mode of ignorance or darkness. Okay? So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, what does he advise? He advises that a Vaishnava who is not of good character, who is always violent, angry, envious, proud, consistently, devotees display such symptoms, he said that such Vaishnava should be avoided. Have you ever heard that a Vaishnava should be avoided? It is mentioned. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that such a Vaishnava must be avoided. This is given in the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam. If you go and read that purport, it is mentioned 3.29.8. It should be avoided. However, one must offer respect to such a Vaishnava. Samne aayega to what we will do? Hari Bol Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam, please accept my obeisances. That is there. Offer respects to that person. But do not generally keep association of devotees who are performing devotional service in the mode of ignorance. Because in very few, within few days, some, what do you call that, Gujarati mein? Vanda Vachkada. Some Vanda will happen with those devotees. And we will not be happy working with that devotees. Correct? So therefore, these things happen. So therefore Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that don't associate with such devotees but offer Haribol relationship. They are not in your restricted relationship, such devotees. Otherwise you'll always be unhappy. One devotee yesterday morning, after Bhagavatam, yesterday morning, after Bhagavatam class, one devotee was telling, Prabhuji, ये devotee के साथ हमेशा ignore करते रहते हैं मेरे को. कितना साल से try कर रहा हूँ to establish, to come close to this devotee, but he sees me through. क्या करूँ? What will you do? The devotee is ignoring and treating him like. That is what his complaint. What do you do?
Keep serving.
Huh?
Keep serving.
Very good. You are Paramahamsa. How many of you can continue serving honestly? I cannot. You can serve? If the person who you are serving is always ignoring you, or you want to develop a relationship, doesn't want to have a relationship with you, will you continue serving that devotee? On a practical level. Practically, let's speak practical, not theoretical. We can't serve. We need some relationship with that person, no? Otherwise, how we can serve? Some reciprocation is required, no? Person says, good job Mataji, thank you Prabhuji, aap kar rahe ho, right? And then you serve, then that person also serves you, then again you serve, then again that person serves you, then you start enjoying devotional service, correct? No? Because we are not on that platform right now. There are devotees. What you are saying is the highest platform. It's not wrong what you said, but it is the highest platform. We are not on that platform. There is a devotee who I was telling about in Mill Park. I will not say his name here. But this devotee has served under a very, very aggressive leader. Highly aggressive leader. One of Prabhupada's disciples. He was served under a very aggressive temple president. And he has worked without complaining under that devotee for many, many years. Before becoming a spiritual master himself. But such devotees are rare, who can tolerate anything and still serve. Like Govind Prabhu was saying in one of the classes that Lakshman was in such a bad position. Lakshman's integrity was questioned by Sita because he did not cross that line. So Mother Sita said that, yeah, you want to enjoy me. That is why you are not going even when Ram is in danger. So his integrity was questioned. And when he crossed the line and then went to Lord Ramchandra, he questioned his competence. That why I told you to stand there, why you could not stand there. You don't have the ability also to follow an instruction. Like that. So when your integrity and when your competence is questioned, what did Lakshman do? He still continued serving. I thought that was a big problem. But how many of us can do that on that platform? The moment small, something is not within something small, minute problems also, then our nose starts swelling, then we show it on our face, then we stop talking to that person, And devotees can see it very clearly, by the face how a devotee tries to control others' behavior and get his or her agenda done. So that is how we all are. So we are far from that standard of. So on a practical level, we need reciprocation from each other to keep us motivated in devotional service.
What is the solution to?
Pardon me?
What was the solution?
Solution was that restricted relationships. I told that devotee, stop associating with the devotee, serve someone else. जिससे दिल का रिश्ता बनता है उसको सर्व करो. Simple है. Correct, no? Does anyone deny that? Your heart feels like serving someone, you serve that person. Serve another Vaishnava. With who is more receptive to you. Why only stick? And this is not my suggestion. I asked this because I also had this problem. Right? When I went, I asked also that with some devotees you just can't do friendship. बोलते ना मजा नहीं आता, कभी भी मजा नहीं आता. So what to do? And I was instructed same way. So don't cross paths. Let that person serve in his own way. You serve in your own way. Why you have to go? Because is there a dearth of services for Krishna? Fortunately, service is the only thing where there is infinite abundance. Right? If one wants to serve, there is no problem. It is only if one wants to do that service which the other person is doing, मेरे को वही service चाहिए, then there is a problem. Correct? That Mataji is making Radha Vallabha garlands on Tuesday, I want to make Radha Vallabha garlands on Tuesday. Then you have a problem. Correct? But if you say, I want to serve Radha Vallabha, then where is the problem? Oh, you want to serve? Oh, very good. Okay. Bathroom is there, toilet cleaning is there. Right? And also deity worship is there. Right? From this to that full spectrum of services are there. Right? Preaching is there, cooking is there, cleaning is there. So many services are there. So, Narsingha Kavach Prabhu said once, as long as you are interested in the concept or the principle of serving, then you are happy. But the moment you say that I am only interested in a specific service, then you can have conflicts. But the principle of serving is what you have, then there is no conflict. At any point in time, you will never have any problem with any devotee. Right? But on one hand, but on the other hand, you see that we cannot have relationships with every devotee. It is not possible. Because why? Not because we are right, they are wrong. Okay, we should not think like that. We are right, they are wrong, therefore no. Who are we to certify ourselves as right? It is simply we have to understand that there are two different natures which are clashing. So Gauri Mataji will take a class for us on this. What is that? Sanguine? What is that? Sanguine nature and melancholy nature. She has studied and come.
We studied, I'm still practicing.
But you have to share with us. Okay? It is a good course to do. Personality styles. In fact, last time when I went to for Yatra, Premji Prabhu was telling you must do this course properly. It will help you in devotional service. to understand people whose nature you can connect with. Because we need to be happy in Krishna consciousness. If we are always sad or angry in Krishna consciousness, then we cannot execute Krishna consciousness with a loving heart. Right? So we have to be happy. So then associate with people who you are comfortable with. And gradually when you purify yourself, then obviously we will become more and more indifferent. Viraktim, anyatra karoti pumsam. But that stage will come. But initially if we have, initially itself, if you are saying, I will swim the Suez Canal, then you will drown. Correct? Initially you have to swim in the one zone, that small pool is there, the tub is there. Inside that is a doll you can sit and you can splash the water. And then eventually we will swim the Suez Canal. So that, like that. So at least initially be in restricted relationships. Till we become Samadarshi, Pandita Samadarshina. That is the high stage. But this is a practical instruction that I got. So don't try to run behind a person who doesn't want to have a relationship with you, or with whom you know that your nature will not match. Respect. Have a respectful relationship. Have etiquettes. But where there is friendship and relationship, you don't need etiquettes. Like, even with the person who introduced me to Krishna consciousness, currently he is in Los Angeles. Okay. After becoming a devotee, I wrote to him, Hare Krishna Prabhuji Pamho AGTSP. So he called me, बोला क्या हो गया भाई तेरे को? ठीक तो है. He is actually second initiated devotee. But he told me, अरे क्या है तो ऐसा कैसा बात क्या Pamho उनको लिखता है? Because I always used to talk to him like that, क्या यार चल अपन उधर चलते हैं उधर चलते हैं. That is how he was my best friend, and he brought me into Krishna consciousness. Then after Krishna consciousness, suddenly I tried to become very reverent and all. He said, no, don't do that. Very early he told me that. He said, where you have a natural relationship, don't bring rules and regulations in the relationship. Same thing here, Krishna. Where there is Raganuga, Ragatmika, there is no room for Vaidhi. The gopis are not sitting and, let me, properly let me wear the top part of the dress and then, let me do 3 times Achamanam and then go to, yeah, you can imagine how Krishna will be feeling. Mama, I am hungry, let me do Achaman and come. So Mother Yashoda is just feeding, or the example of Ghanshyam Baba, which you saw in, the journey home, very spontaneous devotee. He will offer one to the deity and he will put in another devotee's mouth, again he will offer to the deity. These are all unheard of in Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. But where there is a relationship, there need not be etiquette.
So there is no need to call wife as Devi.
I'm not saying, you call whatever you want. Alright. So the worship of deities in the temple by a separatist. The next one, mode of ignorance we saw, mode of passion. The worship of deities in the temple by a separatist with a motive for material enjoyment, fame and opulence is devotion in the mode of passion. So where you are seeking material enjoyment, name, fame, opulence, then such worship is in the mode of passion. The interest of such devotees is to draw from the Lord as much as possible. Chalo nikal de inse. Pray karke. Bhagwan se, Sukh Sampatti घर आवे जय जगदीश आवे. Okay. चलो भगवान को पूछते हैं सुख और संपत्ति आएगा घर के अंदर. So भगवान से क्या एक्सट्रैक्ट करते हैं? We try to take from him. How much? Whatever you want. That is called as devotional service in the mode of passion. Of course, when we become a hardcore devotee, it becomes a little subtle. It is not as gross as the karmis do. Karmis worship the demigods. Even if they go to Krishna, they will say, oh, promotion, dhanam dehi, putram dehi, varam dehi and all that. Okay. Maybe we don't do that. But we still go, no? We say, oh my dear Lord, today, ensure that I am not transferred to Perth. Correct, no? Ensure that my boss is not sending me back to India. No? So at least we go with some material desires. No? So like that. So that is called as devotional service in the mode of passion. But yes, another principle is also there. What is another principle which we also learned? That akama sarva kama va moksha kama udari. Tivrena bhakti yone yajjata pusham. With all desires you still approach Krishna. Slowly you will get purified from the mode of ignorance to mode of passion to mode of goodness and then transcending to that will happen. But this will help us understand because many times people are very critical of devotees, especially new person comes ना. आप लोग अपने आप को भक्त बोलते हो, गुस्सा आता है आपको? अरे भक्त, it's like saying going to a hospital and saying that आप सब hospital में रहते हो फिर भी खांसते हो. Is that a proper argument or what? Why are you coughing? Even though you are in the hospital, you are under the care of doctors, still you are coughing. Is that a valid argument? अरे भाई, because I'm coughing, I am in hospital. Because गुस्सा आता है इसलिए मंदिर में आया, so that गुस्सा कम हो. So don't put an argument. आप लोग devotee हो फिर भी क्यों गुस्सा आता है? Correct, no? Because we are all in a hospital. We are in a spiritual hospital. We will get there eventually. But it is a hospital. All spiritually sick patients are in the hospital. And all spiritually sick patients who don't think they are sick are not in the hospital. Does it make sense? Everybody is spiritually sick. People who accept that come to the hospital. जो बोलते हैं नहीं मुझे क्या बीमारी है, मैं तो सब ठीक हूँ. Then they are outside. They are not come to devotional service. Everything is so good, nice. Correct? But still, if we are worshipping specifically, consistently, if we go to the Lord for enjoyment, fame, opulence, etc., then it is called devotional life service in the mode of passion. Govind Prabhu was telling us the other day, that the sure shot way to lose all your piety is to blow your trumpet. He said it is the sure shot way to blow up all your piety. I don't know where did he say this.
Arjuna got angry on Dhritarashtra and Krishna. So he said that I have done such a bad thing, I want to kill myself. He's saying you don't kill because it's not practical.
Yeah,
so you praise yourself.
Praise yourself. Yeah. So if you want to kill yourself, then you should talk about your own glories. That's a sure shot way of killing oneself, of committing suicide. I did this, I did that. So it is mentioned that when one even has a tinge of personal interest, then his devotion is mixed with the three modes of material nature. Now we'll go a bit faster. Those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets, and those in the abominable mode of ignorance go down to the hellish planets. This is one of the important verses of Bhagavad Gita. Urdhvam gachanti sattvatah madhye ishtanti rajasah. So gachanti means what? To go. Urdhvam. Yeah. So one is going up. Gachanti means to go. What does it say? Urdhvam gachanti sattvatah. So one goes to the, and tishtanti means what? To stay. Madhye tishtanti, बीच में रहते हैं, अर्थ में. In the earthly planetary systems you will stay on earth. So Lord Krishna explains in Srimad Bhagavat 11th canto. Gurujan Prabhu has written this, in surrendering unto me. He explains that in the 11th canto there are different activities and factors which are given that affect how we are influenced by three modes of material nature. There are 10 aspects which he has given, which affects our mode. It determines in which mode of material nature we are. We are susceptible to the three modes of material nature anyway. But how we are attacked is dependent on so many aspects. Some may be in our sphere of influence and some may not be in our sphere of influence. The first one is Agama. Agama means what? The Shastras that we hear. Okay? This is a very important point. Agama. What we hear dictates which mode of material nature governs us. Does it make sense or no? That's why we were emphasizing on hearing so much. Agama. Second is Apaha, the water which we drink and the food which we eat. So one is what our ears are doing, another is what is our mouth doing. All that is influencing the mode of material nature which is capturing us. Agama, Apaha. Then Praja. Praja means the association which we take, that impacts in which mode we are in. Then the Desh. Desh means the place where we live, that impacts. Bharata Bhumi te Aila Manushya Janma Sarthaka Kari. That's why it is said Bharata Bhumi is very conducive for devotional service. So the Desh also matters, where we are born. So the Krishna conscious culture is naturally prevalent in India. That is why Indians find it easier to take to bhakti than anyone else. Pardon?
Why we didn't take in India?
Why did we didn't take in India? Because we are tatashta. Because we have marginal energy. Because we have a tendency to become bahimukhi, to turn our face away from Krishna. That is one reason. Second reason is because we think we already know everything. That is the problem. Like once we were distributing Bhagavad Gita to one Ayyar Mama outside, Crossways. मामा had come, and immediately when I looked at him, I said, "Here मामा है." देख के लग रहा था मेरे को. I know all Bhagavad Gita. ऐसा चालू किया वो, क्या बोलेगा उसको? तो हरे हरे कृष्णा, कृष्णा कृष्णा, I know, बोल के चला गया. What you can tell him? Right. So because that is the mentality, we think we know everything. This is how we are, because we don't have the knowledge. No? We have half knowledge. You are saying why Indians difficult? Because of the half knowledge. We like to talk big things, law points and all. But when it comes to the fundamentals, then everything is just empty. You can't be talking about some big topics, social problems, and how to bring peace in the world, and have meat in your breakfast. It just doesn't make sense. And Prabhupada has made it very clear. All this hypocrisy is gone out. It will not work. No peace formula will come. Animal slaughter must stop. Otherwise, there is no question of being non-violent when you are gobbling up meat, dead bodies of animals. So, Agama Apaha Praja Desha Kal, the time of the day also matters. How you? That's why whenever there are some sensitive family issues, I always tell Emanolila that 10:30 ko mat aana yaar kuch issue leke, because I am in the mode of ignorance at that time. मेरा नींद आता है. And then if someone asks me, अरे भाई ऐसा हुआ वैसा हुआ, then गया मेरा. मैं क्या बोलते हैं माचिस भेजेगा माचिस भेजे like that. So then you can't handle all those issues. 10:30, when you are in sleeping time, then can you handle issues? Can you address family issues at 10:30 in the night? I said, okay. Morning time, after chanting, best time. Then we can discuss. Or evening time, when you are relatively relaxed, coming from office. But not at 10:30. Because when you take issue resolution, when you are yourself in the mode of ignorance, nothing but conflict will arise. It's a practical thing, right? So Kala affects. Karma, your activities affect your mode. If you are constantly butchering animals, then what will you be in Sattva good? Obviously not. Or if you are constantly playing computer games where there is shooting going on, you are killing, then can you be in Sattva gun after that? After playing that computer game? No. Correct? So our karma. Then our janma, the conditionings which we have since birth, that matters. Again, we had enough of parenting, lot of parenting discussion. We can never have enough, but we had adequate parenting discussions. Okay, where it was continuously emphasized that we are trying to take a very reactive approach to raising our children. We are not following Garbhadan Samskara before begetting the child, but then we are trying to bring the child in Krishna consciousness forcefully. The child may have his own karma, which we can't do. And I was spending quite a lot of time in Mill Park today on that subject. The child may come with his or her own karma, and then we are now trying to do a firefighting exercise. Jabardasti, kaan pakde, chal Bhagavatam ke liye baitha bhi. It will not work like that. It will work till they are 8 or 9 years old. When they come into teenage years, then they will say, nahi aata hu, kya karega? He will say, okay, Hari bola. Mat aata, main ja sakta hu kya? So our life becomes ulta like that. So, once conditioning since birth, then dhyan or thoughts. If our thoughts are always dwelling on sense gratification, then the modes will jhapatiya dhare, hoga vancha kare. You are always thinking of sense gratification, then maya jhapatiya dhare. Immediately, 3 modes of material nature will act on us like that. The mantras that we chant, okay, that also matter, what our consciousness is. And then there are combinations also. The mantra and the time of the day, there are various, these combinations also will work. Sometimes the mantra will be pure, but it is coming from a third class person, or it is coming from an unqualified person, like that. For example, Hari is the name of the Lord, but there was a Bollywood song called Hari Om Hari, like that. Correct, no? So that will not have the same impact as chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Correct? It is the name of the Lord only, but it will not bring you to the mode of Sattva if you sing that song. Correct? So there are combinations like that. And then samskaras. Samskaras means the Varanashrama ceremonies that we undergo. Right from impregnation to burial, we have samskaras, or from womb to tomb, like that. If we follow that, then that impacts the mode of material nature we are in. So that is what is verse 18 is being elaborated nicely by His Grace Gurujan Prabhu. Now, having described all-pervasive control of the three modes of material nature, Lord Krishna tells us in the next and final section of this chapter how to transcend the three modes of material nature and also what is his own position in relation to the three modes of material nature. Now, how to transcend? We had enough discussion on the three modes of material nature. Now, give the solution. Like that. That brings us to verse 19. When one properly sees that in all activities, no other performer is at work than these modes of nature, and he knows the Supreme Lord who is transcendental to all these modes, he attains my spiritual nature. So Lord Krishna here is defining liberation as transcending the three modes of material nature. That is also liberation in one sense. Of course, devotees are not only interested in transcending the three modes of material nature. Devotees, what is the goal? What is the prayojana for us? Krishna Prem, right? But from a technical point of view, it is being described here that liberation means transcending the three modes of material nature. Because when you transcend the three modes of material nature, you are situated in Brahma Bhuta platform, right? So, this can be achieved in two ways, two steps. Step one is what? That we observe always the three modes of material nature acting on us, right? That is very important. It is very important to observe that the three modes of material nature is acting on us. Okay. Sometimes when we get, in Tamil we say, "Shullana kova varada" we say. What do you mean by that? एकदम ऐसा short temper ऐसा आ जाता है, पटाक 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 करके छोटी छोटी बातों में. Okay. When we realize that we are getting into that mode, at least we understand now this mode is impacting me, but I will not respond in a way under the influence of this mode. I will keep quiet for some time, then I will respond. Does it make sense? So, we can come out of the mode of material nature simply by observing them working on us. Now I am getting angry. Now I am going to tell something wrong to this Prabhu or Mataji. Simply by thinking like that, you will not do it. Just observe. I think the three modes are acting on me right now. So let me take some time. Abhi kuch nahi karega. No discussion now. After some time you will do. Or let me not raise this topic today. And sometimes you will find that, you get very good perspectives after that. So, step one is to observe them working on us. The three modes observing, we observing that the three modes are working on us, that they are active, that whatever we do, it is under the influence of the three modes of material nature. At least we realize that. And the second is understanding Lord's Krishna's position as fully beyond the three modes of material nature. Two steps. Understanding that we are being influenced by the three modes of material nature. Prakriti. What is that? What is the verse? Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha. We understand that we are acting under the mode. It's the mode of material nature which is propelling me to act in a particular way and checking ourselves. That's one. Not that only. Step two is understanding that Lord Krishna is beyond the three modes of material nature. Like that. And taking his shelter. Then we can come out of the three modes of material nature. Now, Lord Krishna in the next verse describes the results we can look forward to if we transcend the three modes. What happens if we transcend the three modes? When the embodied being is able to transcend these three modes associated with the material body, he can become free from birth, death, old age and their distresses and can enjoy nectar even in this life. So it doesn't mean that one has to die to transcend the three modes of material nature. One can be still living, Jivan Mukta, liberated being in this very body. So a person free from the three modes of material nature is free from distress and enjoys life on the spiritual platform. So now Arjuna, this is Lord Krishna has been speaking up until now. Now Arjuna is interrupting that conversation to ask three questions to Lord Krishna. About all the three questions are in relation to the three modes of material nature. And verse 22 to verse 25, Lord Krishna is answering these questions of Arjuna. So Shri Prabhu, welcome to your question towards the end. What are the questions he is asking? Let's see. Arjuna inquired, "O my dear Lord, by which symptoms is one known who is transcendental to these three modes? What is his behavior and how does he transcend the modes of nature?" So, Baldev Vidyabhushan rephrases these three questions. So what are the 3 questions that Arjuna is asking? First is, yeah, he is simplifying. What is the first question? How do we understand that someone has really transcended the modes of material nature? कैसे समझे हम ऐसे पुरुष को? How do we understand someone has transcended? Second is, what is his behavior? What is the behavior of such a person? Regulated behavior, or he behaves according to his own desire? By what practice does he attain transcendence? 3 questions. First one is talking about symptoms. Second one is talking about behavior. And the third one is talking about process. Does it make sense? How do we understand that we have transcended? That is talking about what? What are the symptoms by which we can understand? Because symptoms is something, Gurujan Prabhu writes, symptom is something which we can understand ourselves. And behavior is something which we can understand through the behavior of others. One is internal, one is external. So first one is, how do we understand that one has transcended? Second is, what is the person's behavior, regulated or according to one's own desire? And third is the process. By what practice or process does one attain transcendence? So these are the 3 questions Arjuna poses. And then verses 22 to 25, Lord Krishna is answering those 3 questions. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O son of Pandu, he who does not hate illumination, attachment and delusion when they are present, or long for them when they disappear. He neither hates attachment nor he longs for attachment. Which means, what is the word? What is he to attachment?
Neutral.
He is indifferent or neutral. Yes, viraktim, indifferent to all these things. O son of Pandu, he who does not hate illumination, attachment and delusion when they are present, or long for them when they disappear, he who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of the material qualities, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active, who is situated in the self and regards alike happiness and distress, who looks upon a lump of earth, a stone and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal towards the desirable and the undesirable, who is steady, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, and who has renounced all material activities. Such a person is said to have transcended the modes of material nature.
Isn't this repeating for me? Because this was very similar in the 3rd chapter. Arjuna asked the same question.
2nd chapter also it was
Yes.
Matra sparshastu kaunteya sita ushna sukha. So one who is indifferent to happiness and sita ho ya ushna ho. Yeah. So this is coming in various themes. But please understand, Arjuna was not in the Bhakti Shastri course. So Arjuna is in the battlefield, please understand. He is only hearing once. We are hearing many times. Plus there is a recap also before the exam. Right? Arjuna is hearing only once in Sanskrit. There is no again translation and purport. Correct? So sometimes these messages has to be given several times by Lord Krishna from different perspectives. Like that. That is how we understand repeating messages in the Bhagavad Gita. So how do we understand that someone has really transcended? That was the first question of Arjuna. How do we understand this person? What are the symptoms? So such a person is neutral to the modes of material nature and is indifferent to the pushings of material nature. Once Kadambakaran Maharaj was addressing the brahmacharis in Radha Gopinath temple, Chowpatty. One brahmachari asked Maharaj, what do we do? Because we are practicing brahmacharya. What do we do if a beautiful looking lady, Kanya, is arriving in the temple? What do we do? So what is the answer Maharaj gave? He said, do nothing. It's actually do nothing. What to do? Just understand that the modes of material nature, again go back to the basics. Understand, yes, the modes of material nature are acting on me, khatra hai me, I'm thinking like this. Just accept it, do nothing about it. That's all. Correct. You don't have to do something artificial, sitting like Haridas Thakur, suddenly, like that. And then opening one eye. Don't do anything, just accept it, accept the fallen condition, that's all. क्या कर सकते हैं? हो सकता है ऐसा. So he is neutral to the modes and indifferent to its pushing. So you don't act on it. Neither you think about it. You don't meditate. हाँ वो आए थे. You know, not like that. You know, वो चले गए. Because what happens when you meditate on the object of the senses? Then what happens? Then वो फिर कब आएगी? You know, then attachment develops. Then नहीं आई तो anger. Then what is that? What is the last one? Madness. Yeah. Like that. Where are you? Then poem. Okay, so at the what is that? Nip it at the bud. By understanding that the mode of material nature is not acting, हमने कुछ नहीं करना है. बस continue with whatever you are doing. Don't meditate on it. So he is neutral to the modes and indifferent to its pushings, free from hankering and envy. Srila Prabhupada writes nice purport. He says that when one is conscious of the material body and acts only for sense gratification, when one is conscious of the material body and then one acts only for sense gratification, but when one transfers the consciousness to Lord Krishna, then sense gratification automatically stops. So just transfer our thoughts to Krishna. One does not need this material body and therefore need not accept its dictations. Nice statement, no? You don't need this material body. If you don't need something, why you have to? No? If, for example, after resigning from the company, if your boss tells you, sit down, stand up, you say, hey, resign ho gaya. Yeah, nahi baith. Correct, no? You don't have to listen to him. Only as long as he is handling your performance appraisal, you have to be saying, yes, good morning, boss, good evening, no, all those things, correct? But you don't care after some time. So similarly, this material body, as long as you want to enjoy, you affiliate with this material body, then you have to be subservient to its dictations. Once you decide, oh, I am a material body or no material body, it doesn't matter. The attachment to leave the material body is also not there. Does it make sense? Usually we are attached to living in the material body. But in this stage, you are not even attached to leaving the material body. Then also the material body can trouble you. For example, अरे poison लिया कम्बाकत मौत भी नहीं आती है. Somebody will say like that. Correct, no? They will say, I am trying to kill myself, but this death is also not coming to me. Correct, no? So this material body can also, you can hang yourself, but you cannot be sure that you will die. Like that. Even that court says, no? Capital punishment, some rule is there, no? Hang, and then initially there was 3 times hanging. But after the 3rd time, if the person doesn't die, he has to be released. Then they modified, I think, hang to death. Like that they have kept. Because sometimes you are trying to kill, but you don't die. What to do? So both the desires will create frustration. The desire to leave the material body is also frustrating. The desire to forever live in the material body is also frustrating. So a person who is not associating with the material body need not be subservient to the dictations of the material body. Does it make sense? Yes? No? No, but here. Okay. हो जाएगा कल 10 minutes. We'll make it a little bit entertaining now. 3 modes of material nature will still act on such persons, but such a person will always be aloof. These are just philosophical points, just hear it, that's all. You don't have to, not very difficult points. Neither one enjoys the material body, nor one desires to get out of the material body. Farak hi nahi padta. It doesn't matter. Like that. Virakti does not mean hatred. Virakti simply means indifference. You neither love nor you hate. That's called as indifference. That's the symptom of a person who has transcended the 3 modes of material nature. That's the answer to the first question. Then what is the behavior of such a person? Regulated or according to his own desire? That's the second question Arjuna asked. So Lord Krishna says that such a person is equally disposed to everyone. He sees everyone equally because he has realized he has nothing to do with material existence. Therefore you see everyone equally. Such a person never acts whimsically and executes Krishna conscious duties with fixed determination. So, Devi Hesha Gunamai, Mama Maya Duratyaya. This divine energy of mine is very difficult to overcome. Just continue with your Krishna consciousness service and automatically all these desires lower taste will go away. You don't have to do separately anything about it. So Lord Krishna ends this chapter by discussing bhakti, the last two verses. He ends this chapter by discussing bhakti, which is the method of transcending the three modes of material nature. Because also he is talking about process. No? The third question he has asked Arjuna, what is the process of transcending? So this is a key memory verse for your exam.
26.
100% we will ask this in the exam. I am telling you question paper right now, this verse.
26.
Maam cha vicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samadhityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Very important verse. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. In many lectures this verse is very often quoted. So avyabhicharana means what? Avyabhicharana means it implies having a tendency to render service to none other than Krishna. Such a person can easily cross over the modes of material nature. Vyavasayitmika buddhi. This is the direct process of transcendence, where one can reach the Brahman platform. And when one reaches the Brahman platform, one cannot be subjugated by the three modes of material nature. And on that platform, what happens? Sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. From that platform, then pure devotional life begins. Now, on a practical level, what does it mean? So, Gurujan Prabhu writes that on a practical level, this means taking the Guru's instruction as our life and soul, for which we must have a Guru. Correct? So those who have not taken shelter must quickly take shelter, formalize their shelter, and then quickly take initiation. So we must have a Guru. On a practical level, this means taking the Guru's instruction as our life and soul and disregarding the various allurements that the three modes of material nature bring to the table. Like that. So this attitude of devotion and service will eventually lead the jiva to perfection. And Prabhupada concludes by saying that the jnanis and yogis, Jnanis and yogis, what they have to do at the end of their jnana process or the yoga process, they have to take to bhakti. But for a bhakta, whether he is a sadhana bhakta or a siddha bhakta, whether he has already attained perfection in bhakti or whether he is practicing, the process of bhakti still remains the same. Susukham kartul avyayam. It is uninterrupted process, not like other yoga processes. Right? So that is the beauty of bhakti process. Now, since it is written, Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate, Lord Krishna does not want us to get confused that because he is saying here Bhaktas will attain Brahman. He is saying in this verse, Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. Because Brahman is not the goal of a pure devotee. Goal of a pure devotee is to go beyond Brahman and attain the lotus feet of the Lord. So that one does not get confused with this, Lord Krishna explains in the next verse that Brahman is nothing but his own foundation. Brahmano hi pratishta aham. That is a very famous verse. It defeats the Mayavadi philosophy or even the Brahmavads who think that Brahman is higher than Krishna. So in this verse, text number 27, the Lord says, and I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. So Lord Krishna clearly tells here what? Brahmano hi pratishta aham. That I am the foundation of Brahman. So many of you who are doing Bhakti Varsha programs, if you are encountered with someone, especially someone from Brahma Kumari, this, that, someone comes and starts debating, you can refute that with this point. Saying that, look, Lord Krishna himself has said in Bhagavad Gita that Brahmano hi pratishta aham. I am the foundation of Brahman. So Brahman comes from me, not that I am a product of Brahman. Like that. In fact, it is said that the completeness of Brahman is Lord Krishna. He is Sampurna Brahman in that sense. He is the completeness of Brahman. But Brahman is subordinate to Lord Krishna. Brahman is the effulgence from the Lord. It's not that the Lord has come out of that effulgence. It's not like that. Or worse is, it's not that the effulgence came in contact with three modes of material nature and therefore produced the form which we call as Krishna. It's not even, that is Mayavad philosophy, right? Now because Gurujan Prabhu writes a very beautiful point. We'll stop now, another 2 more minutes. So Gurujan Prabhu writes a beautiful point, please pay attention. Gurujan Prabhu says that because Brahmano hi pratishtaham, because Brahman is subservient to Lord Krishna, Brahman is under the control of Lord Krishna, because of this Brahmavadis who worship Lord Krishna to attain Brahman, eventually attain Brahman. Does it make sense? No. You lost me. What is the difference between Mayavadi and Brahmavadi?
Mayavadi thinks everyone is God.
Mayavadi is a person who thinks that when Brahman comes in contact with three modes of material nature, it assumes a form. Because what happens? Brahman gets contaminated by the three modes of material nature. So they say that anything which is a form is material. They don't understand that the body of the Lord is still Sachidananda Vigraha. Even if he comes in a human-like form, then that body is not made of material elements. This the Mayavadi does not understand. Right? So that is called Mayavad philosophy. And therefore the Mayavadi is not able to distinguish, because I also came in contact with three modes and now we have this body. And then they say Krishna also came in contact, Brahman also came in contact, three modes of Krishna. So therefore they say you, I, Krishna, all are one. You are God, I am God, everyone is God. That is Mayavadi philosophy. Correct? Brahmavadi philosophy is what? Brahmavadis are those people who are attracted to the peace and tranquility of Brahman. They are attracted to the light of the Lord. But they also worship Krishna. Okay? They worship Krishna, but because they worship Krishna, Krishna awards them that Brahman. They don't worship Brahman to get Krishna. They still worship Krishna to get Brahman. That's a very beautiful point Gurujan Prabhu is making here. They worship Krishna to get Brahman because they are attracted to Brahman. And because Krishna can give Brahman, so he gives them Brahman. That's what Gurujan Prabhu is writing. Because of this, Brahmavadis who worship Lord Krishna to attain Brahman do so and attain the nature of Brahman. Like that was a very profound point.
Do they still think that Krishna he's just like the Mayavadis, how they think that Krishna also is connected to Brahman? Then Brahman is.
So Brahmavadi don't think that.
They don't think that.
Yeah. They think Krishna cannot be contaminated. Krishna is Sampurna Brahman, but they are attracted to the impersonal form.
God has a form, but they want Brahman.
They are attracted to the impersonal feature of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita 10.3, Arjuna has also confirmed Lord Krishna as Param Brahma. Not only in this verse, Param Brahma, Param Dhama, what is that? Pavitram. No. It is a different verse, what you are saying. 9.2 you are saying. Param Brahma, Param Dhama. Pavitram, Paramam Uttam. What you are saying is slightly different. The same thing. Pratyaksha Vagam, that is 9.2. That is different. So 10.13, Arjuna also said that. And in Bhagavad Gita 13.13, you can check, go back and look. There also Lord Krishna talked of Brahman being subordinate to him. Anyone has 13.13 in front of them? What Lord Krishna is saying there? Can you tell me? 13.13.
I shall now explain the knowledge knowing which you Brahman, the spirit, beginningless and subordinate to me.
Correct.
Lies beyond the cause and effect of the situation.
So here also it is explained. So Srila Prabhupada finally concludes in his purport that even though the Jiva, which means you and I, are Brahman, still because we are marginal, Tatastha Lakshan, we fall down. And therefore, what happens, because we all are in this condition, therefore Prabhupada writes that by following the principles of Navavidha Bhakti, by using the nose to smell the flowers of the Lord, by using the hands to worship the Lord, and Prabhupada gives the tenets of Navavidha Bhakti, various processes. He is saying that by following this process, one can reinstate himself into the original spiritual constitutional position and transcend the modes of material nature. And once we do that, the desire to dominate over material nature is gone forever. That's what Prabhupada. So the process of transcending modes of material nature is what? Performed Devotional service. Surrender into a spiritual master. Understand the goal of life. Make his mission the mission of your life. Stay away from the allurements that Maya is presenting to us. And in that way, in this very lifetime, we can transcend the three modes of material life. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.